Richard Smythe, the owner of Milco, is indicted on charges of smuggling nuclear timing devices to Israel. N.M. Rothschild and Sons advised the British government on the privatization of British gas. They subsequently advised the British government on virtually all of their other privatizations of state-owned assets, including British Steel, British Coal, all the British regional electricity boards, and all the British regional water boards. A British MP heavily involved in these privatizations is future Chancellor of the Exchequer, Norman Lamont, a former Rothschild banker. In 1986, Mordecai Vanunu, a technician at Dimona, Israel's nuclear installation from 1976 to 1985, discovers that the plant was secretly producing nuclear weapons. His conscience made him speak out, and in 1986 he provided London Sunday Times with the facts and photos they used to tell the world about Israel's nuclear weapons program. His evidence showed that Israel had stockpiled up to 200 nuclear warheads with no debate or authorization from its own citizens. On 30th of September 1986, Vanunu was lured from London to Rome. There he was kidnapped, drugged, and shipped to Israel. After a secret trial, he was sentenced to 18 years for treason and espionage, something Israelis are very familiar with. Although he had received no payment and had communicated with no foreign power. He goes on to be held in complete isolation for 11 years, only allowed occasional visits from his family, lawyer, and a priest, conducted through a metal screen. Although he completes his sentence, the Israeli government continues to hold him against his will. In 1987, Edmund de Rothschild creates the World Conservation Bank, which is designed to transfer debts from third world countries to this bank, and in return those countries would give land to this bank. This is designed so the Rothschilds can gain control of the third world, which represents 30% of the land surface of the earth. On April 24th, the Wall Street Journal reveals the role of Israel in Iran-Contra scandal won't be explored in detail by panels. In 1988, the ADL initiated a nationwide competition for law students to draft anti-hate legislation for minority groups. That competition is won by a man named Joseph Ribicoff, whose thesis proposes that not only must hate-motivated violence be banned, but also any words which stimulate suspicion, friction, hate, and possible violence. These must also be criminalized. This ADL prize-winning paper suggests that not only should state agencies monitor and restrict free speech in general, but they should also censor all films that criticize identifiable groups. Furthermore, even if the person making the statement can justify it, for example, Christians criticizing homosexuality because the Bible expressly forbids it, Ribicoff asserts that the truth is to be no defense in court. The only proof a court will need in order to secure a conviction of hate speech is that something has been said, and a minority group or a member of such group has felt emotionally damaged as a result of such criticism. Therefore, under these proposals, which the ADL will have forced into law all over the world less than 15 years later, Jesus Christ would have been arrested as a hate criminal. This law is designed to protect the Rothschilds' conspiracy from being revealed. in that if you criticize a Rothschilds criminal cabal, you will be targeted as anti-Semitic and thus risk imprisonment. Here's a picture of Lenin and Chertoff. They have a striking resemblance, don't they? Philip D. Rothschild dies. In 1989, many of the satellite states in Eastern Europe, through the influence of glasnost, become more open in their demands of freedom from communist governance in their republics. Many revolutions happened in 1989, most of them involving the overthrow of their respective communist governments and the replacement of them with republics. Thus, the hold the communists had over Eastern Europe, the Iron Curtain, becomes very weak. Eventually, as a result of perestroika and glasnost, communism collapses, not only in the Soviet Union but also in Eastern Europe. In Russia, Boris Yeltsin, whose wife is the daughter of Joseph Stalin's marriage to Rosa Kaganovich, and the Republican government take steps to end the power of the Communist Party by suspending and banning the party and seizing all their power. This symbolized the fall of communism in Russia and resulted in the start of a mass exodus of 700,000 Jews from the former Soviet Union to Israel. In the Israeli journal Halam, 24 November 1989, there is a report of a speech that then Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Ashkenazi Jew Benjamin Netanyahu gave to students at Bar Ilan University, in which he states, Israel should have exploited the repression of the demonstrations in China when world attention focused on that country to carry out mass expulsions among the Arabs for the territories. The London and Paris Rothschilds announced the launch of a new subsidiary, Rothschilds GmbH, in Frankfurt, Germany. In 1991, following the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait on August 2, 1990, on January 16th of this year, the United States and Britain began an aerial bombing campaign of targets within Iraq. On 24 February, the ground campaign recommenced, which was to last 100 hours until on February 28th, when a horrendous war crime occurred. This crime was the slaughter of 150,000 Iraqi troops with fuel air bombs. These Iraqis were fleeing on a crowded highway from Kuwait to Basra. President George Herbert Walker Bush ordered United States military aircraft and ground units to kill these surrounding troops. They were then bulldozed into mass unmarked graves in the desert, some still alive. President Bush then ordered a cessation of hostilities. What was the significance of this slaughter and President Bush declaring the war over on this day? Well, it was the day of Purim fell on this year. This is the day that the Jews celebrate their victory over ancient Babylon, now based within the borders of Iraq, and a day when the Jews are encouraged to get bloody revenge against their perceived enemies. At the Bilderberg Conference on June 6th to 9th of this year in Baden-Baden, Germany, David Rockefeller, a Rothschild, made the following statement. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications, whose directors have attended our meetings and respected our promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. In 1992, in March, former Federal Reserve Board Chairman Paul A. Volcker became chairman of the European banking firm J. Rothschild, Wolfensohn and Company.